Krishna.
Keep going all night.
So, a question to should we start now? Are there some devotees in Aarti? Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe some are online. Yeah, because we have it online as well.
So many of some watching online?
Yeah, some will watch online and some might be on the way.
Okay. So, and is it connected now online or not yet? You're waiting for us to start or it's already streaming on the website?
I'm not sure. Can you check it online? Yeah, it's streaming. It's streaming, right? Yeah.
So it's already
Yeah.
it's showing?
Live. It's called Melbourne Live.
It's gone. It's Melbourne Live.
So just before we start, we'd like to introduce Prabhu and Mataji. So Prabhu and Mataji, His Grace Jai Shri Prabhu and Her Grace Vimala Mataji are very senior disciples of His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīmad Prabhupada. We're very fortunate they are here with us today. Both Prabhu and Mataji, they are excellent teachers, both spiritually and materially. They have helped and taught so many children who are now adults right from childhood. And Prabhu has also served as a temple president for many years in Auckland, in New Zealand, Sydney. And he was also appointed as the global minister for ISKCON's Grihastha and Community Development Ministry. And he's also taught courses at Vrindavan Institute of Higher Education, taught to students of the Vrindavan Gurukul, and of course he has traveled all over the world, given various seminars on different topics for Grihasthas, for parents. So we are very, very, very fortunate that Prabhu and Mataji have taken out the time and have agreed to help us understand how we can serve Krishna's children better. So thank you so much.
It's great to have such a nice introduction, makes you feel really good. Hare Krishna. So, let us first welcome you all and thank you for coming this evening, especially the two brave men that have arrived. The ladies are naturally this inclined because they're mothers and the great responsibility is there for them to raise their children, but also the men certainly have their part to play. Now that door, is there a door on the door or is it that door always open?
It's
Because it was too much of a problem, people ended up in door, bang, bang, no door.
at least not the last 13 years or so. Yeah.
And being sung to by one of the younger members. So I remember seeing Kesava Maharaj speaking in this room. What happened? He was saying, you know what I mean?
Yes.
The noise and stuff he managed. He's so hands up if you came to see Swami Bhagavan Kesava Maharaj, put your hand up if you came to see him. Okay. He's our favorite. We actually adopted him.
We haven't told him yet.
We haven't had a chance to tell him.
Because he's such nice lectures and we saw him giving a class.
It gives us great faith for the future. That just like Rupa and Sanatan and the six Goswamis, Jiva Goswami was not a contemporary. He was almost a contemporary, but he was actually the next generation. But Sri Krishna had allowed him to come and to continue this line. So it's very inspiring when you see younger devotees possessing such knowledge and such humility and all those wonderful qualities. So we've been both. I was going to say I especially, but I'm sure I watched virtually every one of his videos in the last 2 or 3 years, every single one. I watch every day. And then we managed to... I think it's very important in our lives to find inspiration. We have to be inspired. And when we're inspired, we're alive and we can be Krishna servants. So anyway, I can talk all night about Vishnu Maharaj, but we do. Vimala, you want to say hello?
So we're just going to do a little bit of intro. I'm from Australia, from Melbourne. My family's actually here. And we joined together in 1975. We've just had the 50th celebration, which is wonderful.
Can we adjust that mic a little?
Can you hear?
It's a little quiet.
It's quiet.
It needs to be somehow, I don't know how we do it.
Have we got a technical assistant?
Yes. Like, Vimala.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I'm speaking and that's how close I am. Are you?
Am I? Is that better?
Yes.
No, volume is better.
Volume.
Volume's better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh yeah, that is better. That sounds good. So where was it?
She's got all the good things to say and I'll just detail.
Yes, so we joined together in 1975 in this wonderful temple. We got initiated by Sila Prabhupada in 1976. So this place is very familiar to us in many ways.
We're going to be showing you a picture. It's a changing bodies. You know those you've seen changing bodies, picture of changing bodies. We'll show you a picture in a moment to get to that in a second.
Yeah, so we're coming from a place of parents. We have 2 children. They're not children anymore.
One's 47.
And the baby is 40. So we are not coming from a place of perfection, because when you're parents, I don't know if you've noticed, you learn along the way, or you kind of end up doing what your parents did, even though you don't want to, you swear you won't. So we learnt along the way, and especially also as teachers. I've been teaching for the last 35 years, and so you learn a lot about dealing with children, and we'll go into that more.
And so this evening we're introducing an ancient paradigm, really. It's not a new thing. What unfortunately has happened over the course of time is that we have taken up the Western, well, pretty much, it's not just Western, but we tend to find that we have a power struggle with our children, per se. And we're going to show you a few videos about this. But so we're trying to move the energy that we hold between ourselves and our children to positivity, rather than, for example, looking for when we should chastise our children or instruct them. The general tendency is to instruct when they're doing something wrong, because that's when they need correcting. And by doing that, we'll bring about a good result. Make sense? So that's the logic, and it's very logical, but it doesn't work very well at all. Because what it does is solidifies the idea of failure, inability, etc. in the child. So this approach, my wife and I spent a couple of summers in America learning this approach. There's so much I can share with you, but in such a short period of time. So not great, because yeah, I want to speak. It's very important to connect with who is here. Otherwise, we can just say. Okay, so you'll see. This is to try and put the energy between ourselves and our children in the right perspective and turn it the right way, rather than having it upside down. What I'm trying to say is we often connect when things are going wrong. Like Dad comes home, he's up very close to the mic. Dad comes home and thinks, no, I have to correct the children, find out. I don't know if that happens in Indian families, maybe it does. That mum, dad's out.
Just increase it a bit more.
Okay, thank you. Talking 3, 2, 1, Hare Krishna, is that okay? Is it good or not?
Can you hear?
Better? Good? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for being into it. And everyone's coming from Aarti. Good evening, Hare Krishna, welcome. When are we going to try to start again? Okay, let's get going with this right side up paradigm. You'll see how it works and we'll be talking all about that. Now, Srila Prabhupada, I'll give you a little condensed quote from Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adilila 862, purport, Srila Prabhupada. It is a qualification of a Vaishnava that he never sees others' faults. Of course, every human being has both good qualities and faults. Therefore, it is said, Sajana Gunam Ichanti Dosham Ichanti Pama. I can hardly read this, don't mind me please. Pamaraha. Everyone has a combination of faults and glories. But a Vaishnava, a sober man, accepts only a man's or a person's glories, or in brackets greatness, and not his faults. For flies seek sores, whereas honeybees seek honey. So that's going to be our focus. We're going to learn to become honeybees and give up our fly-like mentality of seeing faults, especially in our children. And there's going to be faults there, but this method that we're going to learn is looking at bringing out the greatness in the child. Hands up if you'd like to have great children. No? You want great children. And our invitation to you is that to have great children, you have to become a great parent. We can't expect the children to be great if we are not become great parents. So a great parent looks for the good qualities in the child and magnifies those good qualities, holds up a mirror to the child and says, look how good you're being, look how wonderful you're being. And when there's some fault, they don't put all their energy into lecturing the child. You should have done that, and I told you, and I've told you so many times, and I'm fed up telling you, and blah, 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 blah. And the child is switched off. Children switch off. It's the same old lecture Mum's told me 1,000 times. And I've got to sit here until she's finished again. So we're going to try and shift this energy. Okay, where were we? That was Srila Prabhupada's control. No, that's a bit interesting. This is changing bodies. That's all. Melbourne 1979. Our son Nandala. And that is Vimala.
Yep.
And that is me, believe it or not. So it's been a while. So let's go forward.
And we have a daughter as well. She's not
yes.
in the picture.
Our daughter is Saraswati. She's the baby of the family at 14. Okay, so just to carry what I've been saying, to consolidate what I've been saying about the tendency to have expectations of our children that we think is going to make us happy and make them happy. We're going to play this little short video clip. I think you might see some things there that you might share. Hold on.
You might recognize yourself in something.
Okay, let's see if we can.
Have you got the volume?
Can't believe it. Oh my gosh. We tried this afternoon with Prabhu. And it was working fine. Vijay?
Dvija Prabhu.
Dvija. Yeah. Because it was working.
It was absolutely working, but somehow or other, so we'll just have to stop it. There'll be a simple little button.
Yes, that we don't know.
See my person.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any problems with technology in any shape? Either in your car or your phone?
Sometimes we think it's just us. Because that's everyone. Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
This keeps just dropping out as I try to do it.
Okay. Another try? Yes, on his computer is the one.
Go to settings, volume settings, and see the settings. Not the
Please,
Yes,
please.
yes, please have those.
No. Maybe because the sun's onto
He
the...
got his A-level results.
Tell me the worst.
It's great news. He got what he needed.
Let me see.
Hold on.
English A, mathematics A, physics A, chemistry A.
It was unmuted, so I just unmuted it.
We just need to go.
He got his A-level results.
Tell me the worst.
No, it's great news. He got what he needed.
Let me see. English A, mathematics A, physics A, chemistry A. What is this?
What? He got a B in classical studies.
He got a B?
Does it matter?
What do you mean it doesn't matter? My son got a B.
It's only one.
Still, it's a B. He could have got all A's. Mr. Sinha's son got all A's. But my son had to get a B.
Mr. Sinha's son only did 2 A-levels. Our son did 5 in one sitting. He's the first in his school ever to do that.
Really?
Yes.
Then he is going to school full of idiots. Keep my head up in the community. My son got a B.
He got the grades to do medicine at Cambridge.
He is doing medicine at Cambridge?
Yes.
Idiot! He should be doing PhD.
How can you do a postgraduate without a degree?
I know. That's why I was telling him to do his degree in his spare time. Mr. Khanna's son is getting BSc. My son is only doing A-levels. Too busy playing football.
He got into the Melbourne first team.
Melbourne. Mr. Owen's son is getting into Liverpool. Son can only get a place in Melbourne. He will bring shame to the family.
Liverpool wouldn't give him a trial.
And why is that?
Because he's 6.
Now I'm going to click to the next slide. It's a challenge, man. Really quick, yes. Come back, Mataji, where are you? Yeah. Can you come? Seriously?
Just need to get to the him to get to the next slide.
So the cursor on here disappears. What, tell me what button you use. That one, the back.
The next slide.
That one.
Good.
We can nurture your greatness. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It shows that you are very attentive and very helpful. That was just a little example of what we were talking about. But if I say that was good, you're going to think, okay, I did something good. What exactly it was, you won't really know exactly. But if I can try to show what qualities I saw in yourself. It's like holding up a mirror and say you were really kind, you saw our difficulty and you helped very efficiently. So you get a sense, I'm being seen as a person who's kind and efficient, and it goes to your heart. So you're going to learn how to do this with your own children and see the joy that is there in their hearts, and it will bring joy to you, and it will bring joy to Krishna, because Krishna wants these children to be nurtured, to bring out their greatness, so that we can spread this Krishna consciousness all over the world. So that means you're going to be great parents. Enough of that. No, where are we now? Vimala? Next. Okay, next. Oh, we can use this all the time, you're right.
Try.
So the lady was pretty smart.
Good. So, as you saw in that little clip, that was played at our school many years ago. Prabhu, I don't know if any of you know Prabhu. He was the principal, wonderful devotee. And as teachers, we just laughed and laughed because we saw that happening all the time. And it's good to have high expectations. There's nothing wrong with a parent having good expectations of your child, but often it's connected to an ego. You could see, my son got to be Mr. O-and-son got this. So that's when it can get hard and hard on the children. So as a teacher, this is me, kind of, it's not really me, but just pretend. I've tried everything, I'm exhausted. So teaching children over a long period of time, you know, there's many children who are just a joy to teach and easy and wonderful, and then as a teacher you get some difficult children.
Every child, so you may not consider your own child to be a difficult child, but we all have children who have difficult moments.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, this child had a lot of difficult moments. And she's actually my guru. I see her as my guru because she was the turning point for me. It was a long time ago. She's probably in her 30s or some 20s at least. And I was trying everything to correct her behavior. But what I was doing wasn't working. In fact, it was backfiring. And so I realized that I should either give up teaching because I just didn't feel like I could help some of these children, or I could pray to Krishna and give me some wisdom and some ideas what to do to move forward. So I prayed to Krishna, and then I Googled difficult child, and this website came up. It was the very first one that came up, and immediately when I read it, I recognized what I needed to do. And from there, you know, it went on. We did training in this approach, and that transformed my teaching, and it transformed my relationship with this child, with this very difficult child. And so it was kind of pretty magical for me. So I started using it, and I've used it ever since in my teaching. It's you know, you have in parenting, we're grandparents now. So, and we still use it, we were talking earlier, we still use it with our son and our daughter, because you can encourage at any age, you know.
And guess what? You can use it with your husband.
Yeah.
And you can use it with your wife.
And with yourself. Because instead of beating ourselves up, we can nurture ourselves. So that was the origin. So,
And just,
Yeah.
on that. So my wife had this transformation in her teaching, and she said, maybe you can use this.
yeah.
And I was a relieving teacher, and I would go into a different school every day, different bunch of children, like that. Do you call it relieving here? What do we call it?
I think it's a relieving here too, isn't it? Yeah.
Like that. So I go in there, and we were thinking maybe you don't have a relationship with the children, it's going to be hard to try and introduce this whole thing. But I used it so successfully, it was, and I was able to explain this. Once you get this approach, I was able to sit the children down, and I'll tell you how I did it. If I can remember, it was a while ago. So I say to the kids, hey kids, I'm Mr. My name's Howie, passport name. So I say, Mr. Howie's here today. I've got 2 ways that I can work with you today. One is the normal way, that is that I will win every struggle as we fight our way throughout the day. You'll try and overpower me, but I'm bigger than you, I'm smarter than you, and I've been doing this longer and I'll win. But it's going to be a struggle. You're going to go home and think, we don't want that guy again. And I'm going to go home and think, well, I finally got through the day. Or, I can work with you in a completely different way. That is, that I'm going to see if I can show you your greatness. I'm going to be focusing instead of your misbehavior, which is going to happen. There's going to be misbehavior, but I'm just going to say to you, could you please reset yourself? Which is just like a computer game, isn't it? When you're playing a computer game, or the kids are playing, I'm sure the adults don't play computer games. I won't embarrass you and ask you if you do. But please, it's the children. So what happens when you make a mistake on a computer game? You don't get a lecture that you're a bit of an idiot. Your big brother, your little brother can do better than you. You don't get all that stuff. All you get, quickly you realize I just got to reset. Just like we did in the computer here, Mataji. Touch, and it's back in. So you're back in. So that's what we do. So if Krishna Das, say, was mucking up, basically I'd be using this process and I'd be saying, Krishna Das, reset please. And I'd explain to him, so I would tell the children that's all I'm going to do. When you're mucking up, 2 boys are sitting, say, mucking up. So I said, boys, can you reset yourself? Then I turn I don't give a big lecture and the whole thing. And my game, the game I'm playing, and the game that you're going to be playing as parents, is to see when they're not mucking up. So I'm not there to punish them, so I would say, could you just reset? And then, what were we talking about? Children, continue. I've taken my energy completely away, and they're hoping they're going to get the energy, but we don't give the energy there. And then within a second, if they've stopped mucking up for a second, I will be able to then say, and by the way, you boys are really on task. I really appreciate you showed great ability to change your behavior very quickly. That's really awesome. It's really very good. And then we carry on. So it's the same with the children. We're going to show you how to kind of do that. And I'd say to the children, what do you want? Do you want to choose the first way where I'll win eventually and we'll have a hard day, or do you want us to try this reset? And they go, I said, hands up who'd like the reset idea to when there's a problem. Every kid in the class puts their hand up. Yes?
That's a great idea actually. It's practical and I think that works with my kids as well.
Yeah. It's a very simple idea, but yeah, it does.
It's just, we will talk more about it. Oh, and by the way, we're going to, because this book is going to come around, you could just, while you're sitting there, this book is a visitor's book and it's got Melbourne on top, and basically it's got today's date. Put your name, put your email address, any comment, if you don't have to put a comment, but there's a column for comments. And what my wife and I are going to be doing is we're setting up a podcast so that the information you get tonight will be some things and you'll think, oh yeah. But that podcast will deal with specific things, talking more about the reset. We'll talk more about, in another session, we'll talk about maybe if your child is a teenager and says, I'm not interested in your stupid reset, Dad or Mum. And, so we talk about what you would do then, answer your questions, so that's the idea. So that will come around. Make sure you put your details in there. What do you think? There's a pen here. I don't mind if we end up with 2 or 3 pens at the end, but please, if there's one left, we'll be good. Okay, so we'll go back to where we were. Enough there, Vimala, is it? Okay. Oh, thank you. Behind every small man, there's a great woman.
Yeah. Very challenged, but so that was the story behind the approach, behind how I started using. And what we noticed was that it went so well with the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, like being the honeybee, looking for the good. And when we first met, the man that started the approach, he'd worked with very challenging children. And we said, we're from Hare Krishna. And he said, oh, that's interesting, I'm reading the Lilamrita. You're reading, he said, I'm reading about your spiritual master because my daughter, she goes to kirtans.
With Radhanath Maharaj in New York.
So we felt like, oh, his mode of goodness approach we felt was very powerful.
So we're transforming our intention, rediscovering an ancient paradigm that we mentioned. We're going to replace control and power struggles with our children with energizing children for success. Now sometimes when we've presented this to teachers and different places we've presented, they think, well, this is a whole approach, you've got to think about how to deal with this, and I'm exhausted looking after my children already, and you're going to tell me how I should spend this energy trying to make them see how great they are. It's too much. But so as teachers, and you can transfer this to as a parent, you might be exhausted by the end of the day, chastising your children. We're going to show you another little video in a minute. Trying to correct your children. But I know when we come home as teachers, or you will as parents, you might still be exhausted at the end of the day, but you'll feel a deep satisfaction in your heart. And the other kind of exhaustion, you feel disappointed, frustrated, and what else?
Deflated. Yeah.
Okay. So we continue. Oops, thank you. Training our children. So we've been discussing this. One way to go, as we've been discussing, is authoritarian. It's punitive, forced compliance, enforcing rules. And it's all with good intention that we do these things. It's not, we just don't know any other way. We think that's the way to go. And the effect on the children is often suppression and the tendency to want to rebel, to get out from being suppressed and always told, do this, don't do that, get A's, don't get a B, and it's very heavy energy. And this whole, our life is actually all about energy. Spiritual energy, mode of goodness energy, ignorance energy, it's all about energy. So on the other side, when we've tried all that suppression, you'll see in Western culture, then we'll go the other side. It's like a pendulum. So we've got the heavy authoritarian way, and then we go to the other side, and we want to carry that one.
So the other pendulum side is sentimental, non-compliance. You don't care whether your children comply or not. There's fuzzy rules with the liberal kind of perspective, redirecting, and the children, the result is they become, with that liberal approach, very self-centered and very confused. So these two extreme approaches don't work.
Nurturing Krishna's children is not energizing negatives. You have to deal with them. It's not that we just ignore them and kid on that they're not there. No, but we don't give big amounts of energy. And that's a shift in our way of being. We choose to energize greatness. And we're going to show you that greatness doesn't have to be very great. We build mountains from molecules. We're looking for little bits of success to show your child, hey look, that was you. You were acting in a specific way. And we gradually build that until it becomes a mountain of success. And what else have we got? Clear boundaries, Vimala, you want to say something?
Yeah, boundaries need to be clear. And children like clear boundaries. When I first started teaching, I was in Vrindavan, I was teaching, and a very amazing devotee who was training me, she said to me, when you go into a classroom, give the boundaries. First thing is give the boundaries, because children need that, they look for it. And I thought to myself, I was a new teacher, I thought, I don't want to give boundaries. I just want to love the children. And after about a week of loving them and having no clear boundaries, I understood what she meant, and then I started implementing those clear boundaries. So very important part of the process.
And the clarity also requires that the children, it's not we used to say in colloquial language, shifting the goalpost. Meaning one day you'll accept this kind of behavior, and then the next day you're feeling different and you'll accept another kind of behavior. It's very confusing to the children, and you think, but I just want to love them more today, I don't want to be heavy on them, so I'll be gentle with them. And the kids don't know where they stand, and they keep pushing the boundaries to find out what's allowed, what's not allowed, and the whole thing's quite confusing for them. So clear boundaries.
And the result, intended result, is inner wealth, which means you're building that portfolio of success so they feel successful and valued, and that's what we want as parents, as teachers. That's what we want for our children.
Okay. Mahatma thinking. Interesting. It was a very interesting story that Vimala.
Yes, so this is all about changing our perspective. And there's an amazing story. Have you all heard of Jayananda Prabhu? He was a very famous devotee. Everyone loved Jayananda, and he was the kind of epitome of all good qualities of the devotee. Prabhupada even said we should celebrate his appearance and disappearance day. So there's a story of Jayananda. They used to do Harinams down at the wharf, and at the wharf were all the fishermen.
This is in San Francisco?
In San Francisco, yes. So when they went down there, some of the fishermen did not appreciate the Harinam party. So there was one particular little group, the lobster, they were selling the lobsters, and so they would, just before the devotees came, they would throw stinking kind of water on their path just before they came. So some of the devotees were getting quite upset at this. But Jayananda went up to the fisherman and said, wow, I noticed that every time we come past, you clean the path for us. Thank you so much. And then he got one of the ladies to bake cookies and give them cookies, and he melted their hearts. Instead of having a confrontation, just by his perspective, he melted their hearts. So that's what we call the honeybee principle, is looking for the good, not always looking for the bad, and then you will cultivate that. So these fishermen, after a while, they were just so happy to see the devotees. Instead of being angry or frustrated, they were happy to see them. So with us, it's not about changing kids. Yeah, it's about shifting the focus, so we've said that here. Now here's one. Intensity in a child, believe it or not, I'm just looking, sorry, got it here. Intensity can be a good thing. Even Srila Prabhupada said that naughtiness is a sign of intelligence.
And we see often some of Vimala's students who were really naughty.
Yes.
And now they're holding very powerful positions in the workforce, and they've matured into great.
Yes. When I was in Vrindavan, I had one particular boy, Atul Krishna. He nearly drove me mad. He sent me a little message once saying, Mataji, I'm so naughty, I'm so sorry. And I said, Atul, don't be sorry, I just didn't know how to handle, at that time, I didn't know how to handle your energy. So we're good friends on Facebook, but he does so much wonderful preaching. He's still got this kind of, even when I look at his little face, I see that little boy he's still got this effusive energy, but he's using it so nicely in Krishna's service. I'm so proud of him. So, and I have noticed that often children that what we would call the challenging or intense children are quite gifted. They can be quite gifted. And then there's also with
Thank you. You just reminded me, Srila Prabhupada was so naughty. We read in the Lila Prita, he had one gun. He said, I want 2 guns. I want one for each hand. And then one time, Srila Kirti was massaging Srila Prabhupada, and he saw the little scar in the back of Prabhupada's head. He said, that was when I was a child. I was so angry. Bang, bang, bang my head.
yeah.
So, so we don't know who we're dealing with.
But also this approach is for those good children, the really forgotten children. They can be nurtured too. The ones that you focus sometimes all your energy on the intense children in your family or your classroom, that you forget to acknowledge and nurture the children who are behaving so beautifully. And so we mustn't forget them too, but especially good for dealing with intense children.
Yeah, and also in the educational world, there's an epidemic, I'm sure you might have heard of labeling children. ADHD. What's the other stuff? Who can mention any others?
Spectrum.
On the spectrum.
On the spectrum, this spectrum, that spectrum. So these are generally, see, gosh, you're getting me excited here. Education, you've got a teacher, you've got a classroom. You need to have 25 to 35 children in a classroom on average. Say 30, just for a round number. 20 of the kids, let's say 20 kids, will be able to work in that system. They'll quickly learn how to play the game enough to be okay and get through. There's another 10 children in the classroom that can't do that. They have a different energy. And some of them are brilliant, but they're active and so on. So teacher hasn't got the time to deal with them. So they then get a label, and there's an epidemic all over the world of drugging the children. They take Ritalin and other drugs to suppress them. And I've worked with children, and they're half conscious. When they've got all those drugs in them, it's heart-rending that this child's being drugged down so that they can fit in a classroom, and we say that we're educating them. So this approach actually was very powerful in shifting that idea, that you don't need to go. Those children who are, what's the word, active or challenging? Intense, challenging.
Difficult, whatever.
Teachers and parents have to learn how to channel that energy, and they'll respond if they see that you're not just trying to control them, but you're actually trying to show them that they actually have greatness and that they're being seen, and the greatness is being seen. Okay? A little button. Okay. So we've been talking about this idea that what kids really want. Now what they really want is us. They want their parents. We are God. I said it in the Hare Krishna temple. Finally, it's been revealed. We're all God. But no, yes and no. For if you think as a child, you look up. You're a little child. You look up, and there's this big person. Your mother feeds the child, and everything comes from you, from the parents, mom and dad. And that's the highest level of their awareness of a higher being. So they want our energy, and they'll do anything to get that energy, including being very naughty and acting up. And when they see that when they're being good, usually they don't get any energy. If the kids are behaving, their mum and dad think, well, they should behave. So you just carry on and do whatever you're doing. And it's only when they act up and are naughty, you think, oh, I'm dad or I'm mum, and it's time to connect with them. So they quickly learn or often learn that that's how you get connection with your parents. They don't pay any attention much until I'm doing something wrong, and then I get all the attention, I get all the energy. And I better carry on because there's another slide that will show more. So we are the favorite toy. We're better than a tablet, a computer, an iPhone. They like those things, but we're the best. And if you've ever seen this, and you might have seen, I know with our children, my boy, I think it was at that time, they'll come and they'll sit on your lap, and then they'll kind of, if you're sitting down, they'll crawl up and be hanging around your chest, and then often they want to sit on your head. The little kid sits on your head. So they really think you are something special to get your energy, and they'll do whatever it takes to get your energy. So be prepared. So what have we got? We are the favorite toy. Children want to compete for our energy, and you see that if you've got siblings, there's competition to get your attention. And they push all your buttons to see how many features they can activate.
And we say that, don't we? You're pushing my buttons.
It's funny as anything, but it's so real, that's why it's funny. It's like, wow, this is going on. Now I think we go to this next slide, which, yes, we're going to show you this slide. When you first see that, it's not a slide, it's a video clip. When you hear it, you'll think, well, this is frightening. This child, you're going to see, is absolutely fine. They're not in danger, they're okay. So it's not a child abuse thing, but it looks pretty horrendous. So
And just watch the child, you'll see how desperately this child wants attention. And that's the whole principle of this, to watch, to see that.
And this child's not a forlorn child, it's just an average child in an average family. Now, hopefully if I press this it will work. Do you think it will? You just press it.
Okay.
And watch this. The parents will just walk right past the dog in that way. You feel you want to go and pick the child up. So I think you got the idea there.
The energy principle. And what we would say is give them the energy when they're quiet, that moment, that little fraction, oh wow, you've calmed yourself down. But that's just showing that principle.
The energy principle. So we're transforming how we use our energy. Energy is flat when kids are on task and not misbehaving. I've mentioned that already. Generally, it's pretty flat energy. Especially needy or intense kids can't get your positive energy. They will settle for a negative response to get connection with you. So that's a choice that we have. We've got a choice here. Am I going to connect with my kids when they're doing stuff wrong, or am I going to make a shift and practice giving my energy in a positive way?
And I became aware as a teacher when I started using this, how much negative energy I'd been giving these children, trying to, manage them. So we can change that.
All teachers in every staff room, they talk about what's going on, and it is a real battle. And practically all the teachers, they don't usually drink hard spirits, but they all talk about going home and having a bottle of wine. And that's what happens. Anyway, that's another whole subject. Okay, so we're just going to consolidate that idea. Negative responses are like junk food. Potato chips, for example. Is that coming up there? It is.
Yeah.
The payoff from negative responses is like trying to satisfy your hunger by binging on some bhuja. You know, it's like you eat some bhuja mix and you have a bit. You're not going to satisfy. You need the Sunday feast. Then you're satisfied. So so the kids are not satisfied. They want your connection. They'll do any damn thing to get it, and they're not satisfied. Neither are you. Back to here.
That's what you mentioned, that one. You can eat and eat, but never feel nourished with that kind of attention. So the child gets your attention, but not satisfied. And the last one, nurturing Krishna's children, the approach we're talking about, it acts like the healthy meal. They feel satisfied, and it provides real nutrition, and it will nourish their inner being, their inner wealth, and bring out all those good qualities that you want. So when I first started this approach, I was so excited. I'd only read a little bit of the book about being, not giving negative energy, but I hadn't read the part about the boundaries. So for this little girl, my little guru, little Bhumi, I started just energizing everything she was doing right. And I ignored all the wrong things. But there was a problem there. She was getting away with lots of not good things. And she became, after a week, it wasn't working. She became like a little monster. She became worse. I thought, I better go back to the book. And that's when I discovered there's boundaries. You've got to have clear boundaries, clear rules. And we know that in any institution, like in families, in schools, in business places, we need rules and boundaries. And so once I started doing that, that's when the magic started happening. Yeah.
Okay, we'll end. I wish there was a lot more fun.
Yeah,
there's a lot of fun in this. But we can't help it. We're going to have to show you
just a little bit.
Just a short part of this. This is a song that someone's singing. We've slowed it down slightly. She actually sings faster than what she's singing, and it covers a lot of things that happen.
And this is all about energy, upside down energy. What mums do, the energy we're giving out to our kids, and you'll know it's called the mum song.
Wait for it.
That's enough.
Get him now, get him now, get him now. Your clothes, your shoes, hear the words I said, get him now. Get him and make your bed. Are you hot, are you cold? Are you wearing that? Where's books and your lunch and your homework? Get them, don't and lessons, don't and hide. You can see the
Please, just anything that comes. Give me a comment. Anything that.
But you relate.
Put your hand up.
Just meant for today.
Say it again.
Yeah, I could see like some of the daily, whatever I use on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I go through this every day.
With our best of intentions, isn't it? With our love and our best intentions. I get it.
Gentlemen, anything there?
Mom is a position of career. It's not an easy job. It's a very difficult job. Fathers is the easiest job. They are very cool.
Okay, so yeah, it delivers the message. Very well. Okay, so we've established a case for changing our focus from on the negative to seeing the greatness, and that might give us a better result for the rest of our lives as mothers and fathers and for our dearest children. So there's 3 stands. My wife mentioned that she tried the first 2 stands. It's a little bit like a 3-legged stool. So if you have 2 legs in place and it falls over, you need all 3 for this to work. So here are the 3 stands, the 3 parts of this approach. And it's very simple. We make a determined commitment to saying no to negativities. Refusing to energize negative behavior. Doesn't mean we ignore it. That sometimes is translated, oh, you mean we should ignore it? No, it doesn't say that. Don't energize it. You have to address it, but it's not time for the lecture and the mum song and the whole thing. It's time to put the boundary, make it clear, and that will already have been established. You'll do this. You'll sit down with your children and you'll say to them, Mum and Dad, or Mum or whoever, but it's good if it's Mum and Dad, get on the same page, it's a good idea. And you say, we found this amazing way of working. Just like I explained how I would say that to the kids when I was going in. We can carry on the way we are, or we could try this. So whenever you're doing something wrong, I'm going to ask you to just reset yourself or get back on track. Simple statement like that. And I'm not going to lecture you. It's going to be hard for me not to. But I'm not going to lecture you. And we'll have a family conference around what the boundaries in the home are. So that means, and you negotiate it according to the age of your child and their ability and their tendency. We're all individuals, so it's going to be different for everyone. And you make agreement, I could work with that. You mean, say for example, computer time. Okay, so let's have a chat about that. 63 hours a week. I don't know if that's working well for us all. And you talk about it, and you make an arrangement, and they say, okay, you feel it. And Mum says, you talk about it, and come to some agreement where the child feels, okay, I could work with that. Okay, and that's the boundary on that. And you go through it gradually, get the boundaries clear. And when you don't do that, which you're definitely not going to do because we all make mistakes, we're not worried if you make a mistake. And all we're going to say is, hey, can you get back on track, Krishna Das? And that's all we're going to do. And then we go on to something else. And as soon as they're back on track, you're looking for that. And you say, hey, that's amazing, you're back on track, well done. And it shows, and it will show you how to do that. Got that idea? Yeah. Where were we? So, that's the first one. No to negativity. Second part, yes to positive. Giving our energy when rules are not being broken. Okay, then now you want to say.
When you think about it, the day, right? You see, there's only a short window of time when they are breaking the rules. But that's when we give our energy. When they're not, when they're doing the right things, we forget to energize that.
That's the massive amount of the day.
And that is the massive amount of the day. Yeah. So that's number 2.
Okay.
And number 3 is clear consequences. We call it the reset, and like my husband was saying, back on track. That's what I use in my Year 2 classroom. Let's get back on track. You can call it whatever name.
And it's an amazing thing you can do too. we're asking the children to reset. So I've been in a class, and so I'm in a classroom, right? So there's 25 kids, and then say it happens, still it's a group here. So two children over there are mucking up, and somebody over there is doing something, and somebody over here is doing something as a teacher. So sometimes you're trying to deal with that, and then I'd say to the kids, so I'd be getting a bit anxious or a bit angry, a bit disturbed, and I'd say to the kids, what do you think Mr. Howie should do right now? And they'd put their hands up, reset Mr. Howie? And they would do it quite often. And I'd say, yeah. And I'd just say, whew. And I'd just take a deep breath and I'd say, yeah, reset Mr. Howie. And so you can do that as a parent. If you're starting to be negative with the children, you can do it. You say, hey, I'm going to reset myself. And I'm going to see your greatness instead of I'll be getting on your case, telling you to do this, do that. And the kids will love it. They'll say, you do it too. And it's not just expression. So you can do it too.
That was the last one? Yep.
Okay.
So that's the 3 stands to remember. And
okay, so those are 3 stands. How are we going for time? We've got about, according to our time schedule, we've got about 10 minutes left, and we've got halfway through. Because it's such a momentous shift. We're not just giving you a quick couple of tips. We're talking about refocusing your whole life to be this way. And as my wife said, we've been using this approach for the last 20, 30 years, and I humbly present that this is a far superior way. It's sattvic. It's a sattvic way of bringing divinity into the whole relationship. You can, especially as your children are devotees. Wow. So now the good news on this. So what are we going to do?
well, I think we'll just keep going. We'll have to go a bit faster, I think, because you all have jobs and you have to get home and stuff like that.
So it's a great idea, Vimala.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't mind. We can keep going, but I'm realizing, so we need to see if we can come up with an alternative. We may have to keep going, but we might have to, okay, reset, Mr. Howie, I need to reset.
Session.
Sorry, what happened there? Somebody said something else. So we're open for ideas here.
Maybe we can have another session for part 2.
Yes, would be best. Then we could explain it fully, because we yes.
Okay, where are we going? It's quite confusing for us sometimes. So we're doing other presentations. The different Bhaktivedanta groups.
That's on Friday.
It's on
Friday. Saturday morning, we were thinking to do something for the children.
Yes. So maybe we could. I think it's a 2-hour slot. I think for the children, we don't need 2 hours with the children.
No.
So, and the parents, I was thinking of this earlier, the parents will have to bring the children anyway, so they're going to be coming here. Does that make reasonable sense? So, I'm going to suggest that we do the first hour with the parents, but we just need to think how to look after the children for that hour. So we could not rush through this. We're rushing already, believe me.
25 or so people online listening this now couldn't
Oh,
make it. So
Help me there.
25 people are also online listening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Krishna. So can they watch?
maybe they
Yeah.
can help Saturday. Maybe they might be able to come in on Saturday.
Apologies to those online if they can. But yeah, it might work. I think it's the way to go. Okay?
We can do that.
And then we'll tell them, the children, not be excited.
Yeah.
We can talk to the children and say, guess what your mum and dad are going to do? Like, what do you think? And then we'll see how they go, and it's going to be good. Okay, so we won't rush. We'll just finish off in the next, so that you get home and you think, that was okay. You didn't get home at 10:30. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for your support. Okay. Oh, we haven't got anything up there, sorry. I'm seeing it here, but it's not up there yet. Okay. Now we're introducing something here. This is Shami at Waterworld in Orlando or some place like that in America. And we use this in the Bhagavad Gita. I'll tell you about this in a second. I'll better put it out, otherwise you'll be wondering what the heck I'm talking about. It's not. Alright, so we got the statement, Krishna lowers the rope for us. So, this orca jumps about 20 odd feet out of the water and everyone claps and applauds. The training for that orca, generally people would think, well, you might not be able to jump 20 feet, they must be swimming along and then they learn to jump a little bit and then gradually they can jump further, like that. But how the training goes is that they begin the training, they put a rope on the top of the water and they let the rope go down to the very bottom of the water in the swimming area. And they entice the fish, or the big fish, mammal or whatever it is, to swim across it, and they give it some reward, and it starts at the very bottom, and gradually it comes to the point where they can come out of the water, and then they can do like that. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter 8 to 12, he says that he will lower the rope. He says, always absorb your mind in thinking of me, like that. But if you can't do that, you should follow. That sounds like the tantrum one. The same person who must have turned up for tonight. God bless him. Might be. So yeah, Krishna says like that, absorb yourself. If you can't do that, follow the principles of Bhakti Yoga and perform that. If you can't do that, do this. If you can't do that, do something good and he lowers the rope to begin your service. So this is the same with this approach. We don't expect perfection, but we start to find small things, and by building on the small things, we will be able to come more and more to acknowledge that. Anything there, Vimala?
Well, yeah, we talk about building mountains from molehills. So, like you're saying, especially with children, challenged children or difficult children, you start small, you start noticing those small things, and we have ways of doing that in our approach.
And that's what we're going to most likely in the next session.
We'll
show you these very clear ways of nurturing the children. So there's 4 basic ways, and one builds on the next one. So I'll go back to that little button. Okay.
And that is the end of session 1. And we were trying to do the whole thing, but it's very hard because...
And by Krishna's arrangement, somehow somebody's had the intelligence and it will work out. We can do it on...
Saturday morning.
So I hope we piqued your interest. Has everyone put their email in here? Yes. Thank you. We'll get that. Happily get the podcast up and running with someone in New Zealand's trying to put it together, help us get it together. So any questions? We'll spend 5 minutes or so just with... Yes, Mataji.
Yes, I have a question. So many times we may be in a situation where we're with a large group of children, little children, but also teenagers, because we have many devotee kids here.
Yes.
So there can be a situation often where some kid may do something really naughty or say something rude. Then in that moment, would you, like you have to, they're all looking at you as a parent, what are they going to do? You know, or they might not be also.
You mean your child is looking at you?
It could be my child, and it can also be other people's children.
Okay.
So then someone, like, I'm just thinking on the weekend some child said something quite rude. So then I was just like, I'm not sure what I should do. This is not my kid. But all the others were watching. So then in that situation, would you also just point out the obvious and say, okay, so we can do this two ways. I'm going to either chastise you or we can have a reset, and would you explain that process and then everyone kind of learns in that moment? Because many times most of us would probably easily have 10 or so kids going to the park or teaching classes or something.
Yeah.
I can say something, you know me, I'll ask for all the specifics.
I'll just say one thing. It's like, if you don't have that as a boundary, then maybe that we need a boundary here, that we can't say those things, and maybe talk to the children as a group, that this is a boundary and you create that boundary.
Like with me as a person.
With the group of children, right? Because if you haven't got it as a boundary, you know, say, well, it looks like we need a boundary here. You could use that as an example, because we're finding that by saying this, whatever they said, or it wasn't acceptable, right? So you would have to create that as a boundary first, I would say, and make that clear.
Will that require? I'm trying to get the context here. You're talking about a group of devotees, and you're looking after 10 children.
Yeah, like at the moment I'm teaching 33 teenage girls for a drama group.
Yeah.
For example.
So you need to say, I think we need a boundaries here, a few boundaries, and set up what's acceptable and what's not. Then you can do the reset easily. That I would say.
You might need to check it out with the parents too. You know the dynamics of your, you know, if you're going to put some boundaries in place. And I would imagine most would be happy if there weren't excessive, crazy boundaries.
Yes.
But for this group to function properly.
That would be good for long term, you know, if you've got them. And then in the moment, you could say something like, that's not acceptable. But you could say it, and then just turn away and say, thank you. Then you turn back as soon as they stop speaking or whatever. Thank you for following that. That means a lot to me. Or, you know what I mean? You can...
Yeah, like how to deal with that situation positively but clearly.
Clearly and confidently. But if it's happening a lot, or you might need to set up some boundaries with your group. Yeah. So it's clear for them, okay, bad language or this isn't acceptable.
And you just be using that word. So get back on. Can you reset and you explain, like I explained to that bunch of children I was working with, and you explained it. And you just say, that's what we're going to do.
And we're going to reset. That's the consequence.
Yeah, that's the consequence. And you are looking, it's not to control the child, so that's the intent. We've got to change that intention. It's not a tool just to manage the children. Children pick up your energy. If you're genuinely trying to bring the greatness out of the children, you feel it. And if you're just trying to get through and get them back to their parents, you know that's the energy. So you're just trying to control us, and it's a new way you're trying to do it, and we're not really interested much. Kind of.
And I've met also with like teenagers or older children, even probably for our younger children, they can be very intuitive and observant. Like if you explain to them, we want to bring out your greatness, but our devotee kids, they really connect with those sort of conversations.
And they're going to be looking to see if it's true.
Right.
And they're going to test you. This approach, like I mentioned earlier, was used in the court system in America. High risk gang members, they would bring this approach to use it with them. You know, and they would tell you, can't use the language that these people would use of their disinterest, because they just saw it as another way to control them. But if you can really be clear in your intention to show their greatness, they will gradually, you'll see. So intense children are going to check. So if you get a bunch of 15 kids and there's a couple or whatever number that are always pushing the boundaries like anything, they'll test you out to see whether you're trying to see their greatness or you're just trying to control them. So if you get that intention, that will be very, very nice. And when you explain it to them, that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to say, can you reset now? You've gone through the things of what's not acceptable, bad language is not acceptable, or rude, or whatever your boundaries are going to be. And all I'm going to say to you is, can you reset, please? Don't give it any end. You just say, can you reset, please? Now, what was it we were talking about over here? And then you're wanting to show them. So as soon as if they back off for a second, virtually, you just go and hey, I'll just keep using the same. Krishna Das, whatever the person's name. Krishna Das, I really appreciate how you managed to bring yourself really back into the group, and it really makes a difference to the group. And when they get that, they're like, wow, you mean me? Oh, and you're not, and people will say, oh, you're just manipulating. No, you're not.
No.
In that moment, that job was great if they backed off.
Because it has to be genuine.
Yeah,
yes.
It's got to be genuine.
Yes. See it straight away.
Any other question? Okay. It's time. Oh, this book is a book called Sattvic Sangha. The principle of the nurturing is in this form at the moment. We're writing another book about nurturing Krishna's children specifically. This book contains, it's a relationship book based on this approach. So it's all about nurturing in relationships, children, workplace, any relationship interaction. So that book is available. It's $20. And it can be paid Mataji. We've got a limited number, I think. We've got about 50. Not for tonight, but we're going to New Govardhan and to Brisbane, and we've got some seminars, so they're available. If anyone's got bags of money and would like to help us with our travel, to pay fares and stuff, you can make a little donation above 20 if you want, but no pressure whatsoever. But, so they're available.
And we're giving a seminar on this specific Sattvic Sangha relationship. When is it?
Sunday.
Sunday. Yeah.
So you'll get you'll get a little more taste of the nurturing in this one.
It's part of the process that we used because we've been using that nurturing for so long. We started to use it in our relationship and in our relationship with others. So it's very powerful in that context too.
So that's on Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. in Middle Park Community Centre. Sunday seminar.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Krishna. Look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
Hare